Go ahead.
All right, welcome everybody to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Krysan. We're presented by LeBear's Casino and the Barstool Sportsbook. TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on this Friday morning edition of Sports Shorts. Today on the show, we're going to talk some LSU men's and women's hoops. The women survive to advance to 19-0, ranked third in the country in one of the polls. They survived. They were down, Tommy, a point with like just over 3 minutes to play. They come back, win the game over Arkansas in front of over 7,000 at the PMAC. LSU's men, they can only dream of being so lucky. They will be taking on a top 10 team in Tennessee. Now, the last time LSU's men hosted a top 10 team, it was Arkansas, game one of the SEC. They won that game in shocking fashion. That was the last time LSU won in the SEC. They're now, 1-5 in league play. They take on the Vols tomorrow. The line will come out. What do you expect that they will be a double-digit dog at home, or maybe not quite all the way there?
I got to think 12, 13 points. I mean, Tennessee's ranked number 9. LSU's on a 5-game losing streak. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's double digits, and maybe it sits at 10 or 11, but I think it's going to be a little higher than that.
Yeah, so LSU at home. I don't know how you can bet on the Tiger men unless you just want to be the ultimate fan and throw $100 in hope. Right now,
Of course, you can get those bets in at the Barstool Sportsbook out at the LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge. I think we're at Ronnie's computers might be refreshing a little bit. Don't forget Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You can listen on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Ronnie Rants, Hunter McCann, Joel Davis, myself, Derry Beckwith, and who knows what else we'll have for you on Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Get you ready for the NFL divisional round. All right, I'm trying to see. Ronnie has jumped out of there. He'll jump back in just a minute. Don't forget, here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, they've got king cakes galore from Maurice's. Some of the best king cakes you can get. A lot of people make good king cakes. I get it. But they got 4 different flavors here: strawberry, cream cheese, praline, and cinnamon. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood got all the wine and whiskey you need for the weekend. And, of course, the lunch special today, fried catfish with the crawfish etouffee on top of it. All right, I think we got Ronnie back. I just did a little Tremonti's thing while you were gone. And Sports Shorts Radio, Bruley walk-ons tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we'll be over there on the west side. Looking forward to being back in our home away from home over there at Bruley tomorrow. Getting back to what we were talking about, TK, a little bit earlier, is as far as LSU basketball is concerned. You know, LSU's women, they are, and I said this when they hired Kim Mulkey, TK. If there was ever a program that could have the first women basketball coach and everybody be on board for it, it'd have been LSU. Had Kim Mulkey decided that she wanted to try to make it into the men's game, and there would be a school and a state that would endorse that, it would have been LSU. And now we're in a situation where, you know, it looks like LSU's women's basketball program is going to surpass LSU's men as far as the attendance, as far as the interest, as far as the care. I would say within a year.
Oh, I think it's trending there right now. I mean, huge crowd last night. Well, let's see what the crowd is tomorrow for the men. And we're not trying to pick sides here, but everybody loves a winner. And right now, the women's basketball program is a winner. Continue to recruit well. I think everybody knows Matt McMahon. You know, he's in his first year. When he was the head coach, they had 0 guys on the roster, 0. And part of that was they wanted to clear the roster because of the sanctions that came down to show they were going to start over from scratch. Part of that was calculated by the athletic department. But Matt McMahon, by all accounts, is a very good coach. Tremendous success at Murray State and other stops. He's just going to need more time. And obviously the portal will help. But women's basketball, I mean, when you rank third in the country and you're putting the crowds in that they're putting and the attention that the program's getting with the players and the coaches, I mean, I think they've trended ahead of men at this point, because right now, I mean, right now, the women are in the postseason, the men are not. Okay. So, and I don't think that'll change, to be honest with you, just thinking ahead there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's trending that way this year. But I'm just saying on solid ground, I can see it. I can see LSU's women. I'd be curious to see, will LSU's women's basketball team over the next year or two have more season ticket holders than the men? That'll be the big determining factor. I know last year, this year they had over 5,000 season ticket holders this year. The men usually, I want to say, have between 5 and 7, something like that. So I'm curious to see, and if we can, over the next year or two, if it trends that way. For sure, it'll be even.
Well, let's say this, Ronnie, on that topic. Kim Mulkey, Louisiana native. We all know the history. We all know the story. Matt McMahon. Not a lot of people heard of Matt McMahon before he was hired by Scott Woodward. Just so the landscape there's a little different. I mean, if Kim Mulkey, rolls around, if she comes in Tremonti's today and says, "Hey, a bunch of you people need to buy season tickets," it might happen. If Matt McMahon walks in, they're going to say, "Excuse me, sir, who are you? Can I help you?" So I think that's part of it. But I think you're making a good point. We got to see where that goes. What was the attendance last night? I didn't
over 7,400 at the game last night.
Chance asked that, so I didn't. Yeah. I watched a good bit of the game, including the end. Ronnie, I got a question. The old school, the pant rolled up thing by Amanda Reese.
It's what everybody does. I mean, boys do it, girls do it. They've been doing it for a couple years.
So I just got to ignore it and not let it bother me. Is that what you're telling me?
They do it at the high school level, Tommy. I mean, I see it in high school when I do games and stuff. So, look, we're the old get off my lawn guys. And so I know the look is going to bother you. It bothers me, but it is what it is. They've been doing it for a couple years now.
So, and everybody's I'm not trying to put Kim Mulkey in the spot, but she's not going to tell her, don't do that.
No, and she didn't last year because they did it last year. Yeah, everybody does it. It's
all over the country is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not gender, it's not racial. I've seen everybody do it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So a national story I want to talk about that's not necessarily local, but it might impact LSU, and it already has. They've gotten a wide receiver out of Shreveport. Deion Sanders lands the #1 cornerback in America out of Florida. This is the second year in a row Deion's landed the #1 cornerback out of Florida. Last year, he got one to go to Jackson State, and that young man's with them now at Colorado. What I'm curious to see, and we knew that Deion Sanders was going to have an impact on the University of Colorado. That was a given. That was obvious. What I'm curious to see, Tommy, is will Deion Sanders be able to sustain? To get a kid to come from Miami up to Boulder, the home of Mork and Mindy, to get a kid to go up there and stay in that faraway region, not like where they're from, cold as hell, snowy, all that sort of thing. You got to bring your Birkenstocks and all when you go to Boulder. Like, are they going to stay? But that we'll see. But it's unbelievable what he's doing right now. He's already acquiring more talent up there than since they had Rashaan Salam and Slash, running around back there.
Well, I mean, Deion Sanders, he's prime time. I mean, I'm sure he can whip out some videos of his days in the NFL, his connections in the NFL, and his success at Jackson State on and off the field. And now he's at Colorado, where the only place to go is up. Yeah, Colorado won a title, shared a title 30-something years ago, but the only place for Colorado to go is up. And I think Deion Sanders is going to tackle that challenge. I don't know how he's going to do. He's got a decently tough schedule next year. Somebody printed it up the other day. And, but I'm like you. Can he sustain this? Can he get a top 15 recruiting class, which I don't think Colorado has been anywhere near that for a long time. Top 10 recruiting class. What can he do? Is he putting together an NIL collective? That's part of it now. And then through the train, he's got I think it's 6 or 7 kids from Jackson State have transferred to Colorado, including his son, the quarterback, and including last year's number one defensive player, the kid that didn't go to Florida State and come to Jackson State. I forget his name in a quick minute here, but I'm curious too whether he can sustain it and have success at Colorado.
I was talking yesterday to some people involved in LSU and recruiting and the collective and all that sort of thing. And what's interesting is it is exactly what we thought it would be at this point, Tommy, where you have some players that are going into the portal because they want to be recruited again and be loved and told that they're wanted and needed to stay at a certain school. You got others that are going in there out of, hey, I just want to see what else is out there because I want to try to get the most money that's possible. You've got some that are going out there to kind of shake down the same school that they're at. Like, hey, I didn't get any love. Let me go in this portal and maybe y'all will show me some love financially. And here's where the NCAA is. Right now, the NCAA is doing nothing. They're worried about Jim Harbaugh, and they're worried about things going on in Michigan. But instead of dealing with the bigger problem, which is, whereas, hey, supposedly when a player comes, they're not supposed to be able to ask a team and say, hey, XYZ team, if I come here, what are you going to give me? How much money are you going to give me? What's supposed to happen legally is that person on the other line is supposed to say, well, let me tell you what other guys have, what kind of deals they have right now at LSU. We've got an offensive lineman that has this deal. We've got a defensive lineman that has this deal. And they're working with so-and-so. Here, I'm going to, that's who you need to talk to. The schools and the coaches and the recruiters are not supposed to be the agents and say, you come here, this is what your package is going to look like. Or here, let me negotiate it for you. But that's exactly what's happening. We all know that's exactly what's happening. But for whatever reason, the NCAA rather go argue and look at all these silly other things as opposed to putting rules in place and investigating what's blatantly happening at LSU and everywhere else. And particularly A&M, we all know the story of A&M a year ago when they had the number one recruiting class in the country. And, rumors where they spent as much as $30 million, to get players. It's the Wild Wild West right now, truly the Wild Wild West. They don't have enough staff, does the NCAA, and they don't have the backbone to go after any of these collectives or any of these conversations that they know are happening. And so you're just seeing guys coming and going left and right. We're seeing LSU players every day coming and going. It's we use the term oogie. It's beyond that, Tommy. It's gross.
It is, and again, we've talked about this, the unintended consequence. Does this push fans away over the course of the next couple of years? And we don't know the answer to that, but I think it's a fair question. Now, how about Walker Howard? He goes to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss brings in the kid from Oklahoma State whose stats dwarf Howard. Howard 2 for 4 in mop-up duty against Purdue. But this kid was an all-12, Big 12 player, and I mean, so anyway, the big thing is Walker Howard was the number 3 quarterback at LSU, and he left to be the number 3 quarterback at Ole Miss. So that's a little bit strange that Kiffin would bring another guy in. And I'd really like to know if Walker Howard knew that guy was a possibility of coming in. But again, it could be related to NIL. I got to believe it is. And as you said, it's just, they're worried about whether Harbaugh bought a kid a hamburger in a little, joint in Michigan. It looks kind of like Tremonti's Meat and Seafood instead of worried about, the ship's about to sink. They're worried about the chair that got thrown off the deck,
Right. Well, Tommy, the interesting thing is the interesting thing in all this is that on the Walker Howard deal, the Dart who played quarterback, he's more of an athlete type. I can see them maybe moving him into the slot type of, using him and as a running QB option and playing a couple different quarterbacks. I mean, I think that's likely what you're going to see happening there with that. And it's going to be a battle between the Oklahoma State transfer and Walker Howard. But, and I truly believe that they're going to allow Walker Howard to compete for the starting job, where at LSU, it is Jaden Daniels' job. And look, I asked someone close to the program yesterday, I said, I'm surprised Nussmeier stayed. and that Nussmeier stayed and Howard left, we all thought it was going to be the other way around. And he said that Nussmeier truly believes he can win the job. Right or wrong, he truly believes in his talent, and he believes in a spring camp and all that he can win the job. Now, what happens if Nussmeier goes through the spring and it's clear he's not going to be the starter? Now, the coaches are going to lie to him, and they're going to tell him, hey, we're going to have a battle in camp and all that, because they got to keep Nussmeier on the roster. But what happens when Nussmeier goes through a spring and it's clear, whether it's clear to him or whether it's clear to the world, and they don't have to say it, that he's not going to be the starting quarterback, and he leaves? Now LSU's really in a pickle, because you don't have Nussmeier, you don't have Howard. You're going to have to then go get a summer transfer portal guy.
Yeah, well, because the portal's going to be open for like 15 or 20 days in May. And, everybody will be done with spring practice. But
here's the letter of the law, Tommy, is right now you can transfer one time without exception. You can just leave and go and be eligible right away. But if you transfer a second time and you're not a graduate, you have to be a graduate. If you transfer a second time, you have to sit out a year. So LSU's got a very small pool that they'll have to pull from this summer if, in fact, Nussmeier doesn't stick around until the season, because he sees that Jaden Daniels clearly is going to be the starter and maybe he wants to leave. You're going to have to pull from the graduate transfer pool, which we don't know what that looks like yet, because we still have a spring and we still possibly have a summer school to go through before you can find quarterbacks to come and get. But that's something to watch, is that LSU's not out of the woodwork. They lost Howard. They may lose Nussmeier if, in fact, Jaden Daniels does what we think he's going to do in the spring and summer as far as keeping the job and keeping distance between himself and Nussmeier.
Well, and again, that's one of the things I think I hope it doesn't push fans away. You can always have your hardcore fans at every school, okay? Southeastern and Nichols got their hardcore fans who can go to every game. Okay, but does it push away that fan that used to go to one or two games a year, maybe took one road trip now they say, well, I don't want to do the road trip this year. I'm sick and tired of this NIL and the constant changing of the roster. I'm just guessing. There are unintended consequences a lot, and I hope that's not one, because college football is really, it's not the NFL, but it's really had a great presence the last decade, with some of the good changes that were made, going to the 14 playoff. Now they're going to try to go 12 team, which I don't think will be a good idea. We can talk about that later, but, it's ever changing, no question. And, maybe the young people like all this. Maybe that generation loves the fact they have to pull their phone out every other series in the game to see what player that is on the field.
TK, let's transfer over to NFL for a minute. The playoffs, there's 4 games this weekend in the playoffs. Of the 4 games, obviously you got Jacksonville at Kansas City. You got the Giants taking on the Eagles after a bye. Jalen Hurts is going to be back. You got the Bengals traveling to take on Buffalo. We all remember the last time that game happened. It ended in the first quarter with the Bengals up 7-3. Cowboys travel to the West Coast to take on the 49ers. Of those 4 games, which one do you think the dog has the best chance to win?
Oh, wow. Dallas Cowboys. I like the Cowboys in 4 points. Brock Purdy, they won 11 in a row at Frisco. What happens when you win 11 in a row in the NFL? You lose. Okay, the bubble might burst. Dak Prescott, they beat a bad Buccaneer team, but I still think they got confidence in the fact that they won that playoff game on the road. Now they got to go on the road again to the other coast. I like the Cowboys +4. Now, could Frisco win it by a field goal? Yeah. If you got your money down on the 4 points, you should be good. Of the dogs, that's the one I think that has the best chance. My strongest play is going to be at meatandpotatoesusa.com, and it does not involve the Dallas game.
The Cowboys. So if you're a money line guy, you like to get some value. So if you were going to money line, you would take the Cowboys.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Not +4, just a money line. The most entertaining game for me is obviously going to be the Bengals at Bills, because there's so much unresolved stuff there. Bengals are a 5-point dog on the road in Buffalo. Both teams didn't look very good in their playoff wins. The Bengals look worse than the Bills did. Bills scored 30-something points, but at the same time, they gave up 30-something points to the Miami Dolphins, who are awful and playing with a second, third team quarterback. But Joe Cool is Joe Cool. I mean, which team do you think shake? I as much as I want to pull for the Bengals, Tommy, in this one, and I will be pulling for them. If I had to bet, I think on it, and I had to put a wager, and I'm not, just because I want to be able to pull for the Bengals. I would take Buffalo -5. The offensive line for the Bengals is terrible. I think Buffalo is going through so much over the last couple of weeks. They're going to be, that was a wake up call against the Dolphins. If Allen doesn't turn the ball over, so much, the game's not as close as it is. So I think I'm betting on the fact that Allen's going to get his crap together. He's not going to be ridiculous with the football and blow a 17-0 lead. They are the better team. They're at home, and that offensive line of the Bengals, I think, is just going to have issues on the road.
Well, Cincinnati started the same exact offensive line first 15 games of the year. Only 2 of those guys are still in the lineup. Buffalo knows that. Buffalo's got good defensive line, good linebackers. Whatever the over and under is on sacks on Joe Burrow, bet the over. I don't know what it is, but those of you who like to play the prop bets, of course, you can always do that out at the casino too. But, I'd have to bet the Bills in that game at home. Like you said, 17-0 last week, and all of a sudden they didn't have the lead. I don't think they'll let that happen again.
Of the 4 games for me, the one that I think has the best chance is the Giants, as far as an upset from the dog. You're talking about a division rival, so you're super familiar with your opponent. You've played them 2 times. Giants went on the road at an impressive win last week. And let's not forget, we know that Jalen Hurts is coming back. He's been out. The Eagles have not looked good, while he was out the last few games. So the Eagles, we assume that they're going to get Jalen Hurts in there, and all of a sudden they're going to be clicking like they were the first 11 games of the year. But that's not necessarily always the case, especially against a division rival that even with him, they feel confident. So I think the Giants, in my opinion, if I had to pick one, I would take the Giants to be the one to pull the upset, and you'll get some really good value there because they're a set touchdown dog.
All right, Ryan, I got a couple quick nuggets for you in the playoffs. There's only 2 of the quarterbacks who have been to a Super Bowl. That's Mahomes and Burrow. Ready for this one, Ronnie? This was going to blow you away. The 8 starting quarterbacks this weekend all were instructors at the Manning Passing Academy at one point in their career. And that's kind of been locked down into Thibodeau for a while. It used to be in Hammond. It moved around. But all of the starting quarterbacks this weekend were instructors at the Manning Passing Academy. I think that's pretty interesting.
No, that really is. The Manning Passing Academy, by the way, they just signed a new
deal at Nichols,
deal. And so to stay at Nichols and Thibodeau, it's always the last weekend in June, although they had moved it in the past for something. But this year it's back. It's the last weekend in June is the Manning Passing Academy. That's why the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, we're actually having our Hall of Fame induction weekend the last weekend of July. Normally we have it the last weekend of June, but because of Eli Manning going into this year's class, and we know he's going to be tied up with the Manning Passing Academy, instead of just having him fly up from Thibodeau for a banquet, we want him to be there for 3 days for all the festivities. We moved the induction ceremony around, and it hasn't been a big deal. But I would say that that's a great thing for Louisiana. I talked to Peyton Manning about it a couple of years ago when he went in 2019 to Natchitoches to the Hall of Fame, and he said that, and Archie has said this too, they've had offers from Disney and other cities and, Wide World of Sports in Orlando and to move this Manning Passing Academy out of the state of Louisiana to, obviously better facilities, a better location. They could probably have double the kids if they wanted. As it is, they have just over 1,000 quarterbacks and they cap it because they can't handle more than that. They could have way more than that if they wanted. And so it's a great thing that they're doing. They're actually sacrificing some dollars and cents and whatnot to have it in Louisiana, but they're doing it to have something like this in Louisiana and to give back to the state that's been good to them.
And they've helped Nichols out. The turf at Nichols was paid for by the Manning Passing Academy. Nichols has now got a beautiful football facility in the south end zone that wasn't there a couple of years ago. And, so I'm glad they're doing what they're doing. I agree with you. It went to Orlando or L.A. or Chicago. Who knows how many kids they would have. But, it's a Louisiana thing. And I remember when it was in Hammond back in the day when we were working at Southeastern. It's been a couple times in Strawberry Stadium in Hammond. But when I read that all 8 starting quarterbacks this weekend were instructors of the Manning Passing Academy, I was like, I got to bring that up on Sports Shorts Daily.
One thing we'll tell you about on Monday is the LSU baseball first pitch banquet. It takes place this Sunday night, sold out event, over 1,000 people in the ballroom at the Crown Plaza here in Baton Rouge. It's the kickoff of the LSU baseball season. Alex Bregman is scheduled to attend and address the crowd, as well as Jay Johnson and a lot of former players will be there, including myself. So we'll have a little info for you on Monday about LSU baseball. Who I saw Jay Johnson yesterday at Phil's Oyster Bar, and one of the things that I joked with him about was, I don't envy you, because he's got to figure out a way to keep 38 guys happy when many of those 38 could be starting at other SEC schools, and obviously you can only play 9 at a time. So he's got a challenge set up for him, and that all begins Sunday night. I know that they've never had a first pitch banquet with this much demand for tickets, as people in the state of Louisiana and Baton Rouge in particular are fired up about this LSU baseball team that's ranked number 1 in just about every poll.
Yeah, it really are. A lot of people I've talked to can't wait for the season to begin. It begins February 17, 18, and 19. Western Michigan, 3 games in the box. Right now I'm planning on being at all 3. Really looking forward to see, this team Jay Johnson and his staff have put together. I know I joke around with somebody. I said, book your tickets for Omaha, but I think there's a pretty good chance they'll be there.
All right, Tommy, tell us about Tremonti's.
Well, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. We got the king cakes from Maurice's here, cinnamon, praline, cream cheese, and strawberry. Lunch special today, fried catfish topped with crawfish etouffee. Got all the whiskey, all the wine. Plenty of good stuff here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. You can go to the website, tremontis.com, or you can check them out on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, we got Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow, Ron.
We'll be at Bruley Walk-Ons. Come check us out 10 to noon. The doors open at 11 for lunch, and we'll stick around after the show and eat as well. So come by and visit us, and we appreciate all the support of you guys on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You can listen to the show, myself, Hunter McCann, Tommy Chrisan, Joel Davis, Derry Beckwith. The gang will all be on the air tomorrow, so we look forward to seeing you then. For Tommy Chrisan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back Monday for more Sports Shorts Daily.